Welcome, everyone. My name is Paige Simpson, and I'm the Interim Executive Director of the Balboa Park Cultural Partnership and the Director of one of the partnership's key programs, the Learning Institute. As many of you know, the partnership is a collaborative of 27 art, science, and cultural institutions tucked away in many of these beautiful buildings here in historic Balboa Park. On a daily basis, we achieve the impossible through collaboration, bringing together a large group of very diverse organizations to speak with one voice on common issues, to incubate and implement new services and professional practices that are not possible individually, and to build relationships in and outside of Balboa Park. We connect, catalyze, and convene. And today we are convening with our partners in the San Diego Innovation Alliance. This is a new group that started this winter. It's comprised of organizations from across San Diego and across sectors. What we have in common is that we want to advance San Diego as a leading innovation region. We believe that building the region's capacity to drive innovation maximizes San Diego's potential for success in the new global economy. Today's Mayoral Forum will focus on what we have to do to prepare ourselves and our region to succeed and survive in this new global economy. The next mayor of San Diego will have to make some tough choices, which will affect us all. I'd like to quickly note that it's fitting to discuss innovation in Balboa Park, which was home to the 1915 Panama, California Exposition, one of San Diego's earliest, greatest, and most innovative events. As a small town in California of only 39,000 people, compared to the 416,000 in San Francisco, we were the smallest of any city ever to attempt holding an international exposition. We did it well, it lasted longer than the others, and its legacy transformed Balboa Park and the city. I am also pleased to share that we just learned today Balboa Park is going to be the site of another layer of innovation. The partnership is receiving a grant from the National Science Foundation to establish an innovation incubator in San Diego, one in Chicago, and one in Worcester. And these incubators are going to test the application of an arts-based innovation strategy to solving issues in science, technology, engineering, and math, effectively bringing together STEAM. This is one of the first research. This will be one of the first formal research projects in this area that will establish a body of knowledge for the whole country. And we're pleased here for San Diego to be a participant and a leader in this national initiative. So before we get started, I'd like to thank a few people for making this event possible, in addition to our mayoral candidates and esteemed speakers. First of all, members of the San Diego Innovation Alliance who have helped plan this event, particularly John Egger, prolific writer and director of the Creative Economy Initiative for San Diego State University, and Kim Richards, principal of KDR Communications. I would also like to thank Deborah Klochko, who is the executive director of the Museum of Photographic Arts, and she's also the president of the board of the Balboa Park Cultural Partnership, and her staff, her wonderful staff, who have made all of this possible today in hosting us for this very special event. Additionally, I would like to thank my colleague Amanda Sincavage from the Balboa Park Cultural Partnership, who has handled all of your RSVPs and all of the other arrangements today. So you've all had contact with her, whether you know it or not, and we really appreciate her work. I'd also like to thank KPBS for providing our moderator, Eric Anderson, and sending a team to capture today's event. Please note that this event will be recorded and available for viewing from the KPBS website starting tomorrow, September 6th. Thank you, KPBS. Also, we're pleased to have among our many distinguished guests here, BH Kim, who is the new and first Vice President/Executive Director for the San Diego Foundation's Malin Burnham Center for Civic Engagement. And we're so pleased to have everyone who's here. Without further ado, I would like to turn the podium over to our fearless moderator, who many of you know, Eric Anderson. Eric is a longtime reporter for KPBS. He covers business and the environment on all 3 KPBS platforms, radio, web, and television. He brings more than 3 decades of journalism experience to us today as he will lead us through the rest of this hour.
Thanks very much. One of the great things about working for public media here in San Diego is the ability to find the issues that are important to the community and to discuss those issues in a reasoned, calm, intellectual way. And we're going to hope we do that here today. We're going to talk about innovation in this region. And I want to welcome Bob Filner, who is here and running for mayor of San Diego, and also Carl DeMaio, who's here and running for mayor of San Diego. Both of our distinguished guests. We're anxious for both of you to tell us what you feel about innovation in this region and how it figures into the future. We've got a distinguished panel of guests here that are going to be doing the heavy lifting today. They're going to be asking the important questions. Tom Murphy is a former mayor of Pittsburgh for several years and also a senior fellow with the Urban Land Institute. Mark Cafferty.
By the way, that's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Mark Cafferty is the president of the San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation, and he's joining us today, as is Joyce Gaddis, the dean of the SDSU College of Professional Studies and Fine Arts. Thanks to all of you. We're going to run through a pretty easy bit of a routine here. Essentially, this is not a debate, it's a discussion. We want to find out what the issues are and the reasoning behind that. We're going to allow for 3 minutes for opening remarks from each candidate, and we're going to start on this side closest to the podium. And then the panelists will take over and they will ask questions. They will ask one candidate a question. That candidate will get a minute to answer, and then the other candidate gets a 30-second rebuttal. And then we'll move on to the next question. We'll alternate back and forth. But the idea is to move through the idea of innovation, how it affects what is going to become the next leader of the city of San Diego. Let's begin with Carl DeMaio. Your 3-minute opening remarks, please.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for coming. This is such an important topic because it really cuts to the core of the future of our economy and what defines a great city, quality communities, creative communities that enhance our quality of life, that allow us to dream. As mayor, I want to preside over a city where we have creative communities, where we can dream, and where our children are given the opportunities to grow and to develop in the fullest extent, to the full extent of their abilities, which will include arts and culture, creativity, which ultimately is not only for quality of life, but will give them the skill sets that they need to compete in an innovation economy, the 21st century economy, where science, technology, engineering, and math will be the key skills for success. I said, as we were putting together my pathway to prosperity, my economic and job creation plan, that we need to see San Diego as the innovation capital of the world. And so the concept of innovation is woven throughout all 110 pages of our jobs plan. It talks about how do you attract leading companies to a city like San Diego. And what we're finding are that companies are looking for creative workers. The workforce is so critical. And so they're looking for K through 12 education. They're looking for higher learning. The creative class, science, technology, engineering, and math. So it's so important to our economy that we have these sorts of programs in San Diego. But it's also about quality of life. The Texas governor, Rick Perry, mentioned that when he took office, Boeing was deciding between a facility in Texas and Chicago. And ultimately, Boeing decided to go to Chicago. And so the governor said, why? And he said he was surprised. It was a learning moment for him that Boeing felt that Chicago had a more lively arts scene. and that was important for quality of life and their future generation of workers. And so the same is true here in San Diego. We need to have this part of our civic discourse, and we need to have leaders who make this a priority, working through partnerships, bringing innovation into how we interact in government, how we deal with issues inside government. It's why I've said there's no challenge that faces our city that San Diego cannot overcome, because we have some of the most bright minds in San Diego. People who are inventing the new generation of life sciences and treatments in our biotech community, or the new ways of communicating in our high-tech and telecommunications community. And so with all of this talent in San Diego, innovation can deal with and tackle issues well beyond just the economy, well beyond just the quality of life, but day-to-day challenges that our city faces.
And Bob Fellner, please.
I'm tempted to say that the governor of Texas would have attracted better if he had believed in science, but I'll resist those remarks. But thank you for having this conversation. You know, the organizers gave us a list of sample questions, and I thought that the real answer to every single one is that the mayor has to embody that innovative and creativity and the excitement and the energy that comes from such an economy. The mayor has to embody it. And I will tell you, you got him right here. You know, I started my career in academia and am now theoretically in politics. People would ask me, what's the difference between being a professor and being a politician? And I would say, well, one is all thought and no action, and the other is all action and no thought. And I think you have to combine those two for creativity, innovation. And that's what I'm going to do as mayor of San Diego. You know, I came to San Diego 42 years ago to teach history at San Diego State. I have a doctorate in the history of science. When you talk about creativity, you got to talk about multidiscipline. You got to talk about multicultural. That's where I was trained. I have a PhD in history, but I had to minor in virtually every single science that is in the academic disciplines. I mean, talk about a training that is important for the 21st century. Even our moderator, when he talked about innovation, went back to 1915, to when, you know, the Balboa Park exposition and started. I mean, history is there, even though we talk about innovation and creativity. And we got to get out of the silos that we're all in and be multidisciplinary and multicultural and multinational and, you know, multi-neighborhood. Not just use the left and right sides of political ideology, but the left and right sides of our brain. I mean, you got to be able to do all of that, because that's what leads to creativity and innovation. And the mayor has to embody it. I would say we got to get out of the potholes and into the world, the real world, the cosmopolitan world that could make us a world-class city. So, I forgot to mention, not only am I trained in history and the sciences, I play the piano too. So, you know, we got to have the right and left brains of our being to be involved in the 21st century. By the way, we got to be multicolor, and I don't mean just in a racial sense. You know, we talk about a green economy in San Diego. We are incredibly moving into the blue economy, a technology and research, you know, with scripts based on the ocean. So as mayor, by the way, my first creative and innovative thing is we're going to be the first city with an aqua economy, blue and green, because that's what we've got to do. We've got to look at things in a different way. You know, when I was on the city council, some merchants came to us and said, you're putting meteors everywhere, and we can't even, people won't get out of their cars to run in and buy something. So you got to figure out a new way. And somebody raised their hand in the council and said, well, you can't use a blue curb. You know, that's for handicap. You can't use a red curb. That says no parking. A yellow curb is commercial. White curb is, you know, entrances. I guess we can't do anything. I raised my hand. I said, how about a green curb, where we can, in fact, have 15-minute parking with no meters? Talk about creativity and innovation. I mean, that's what you have to do. Think outside the box. That's a minor example. But you got to think out of the box and begin to look at things in a whole different way. I've been trained in that way. My whole life has been spent in that way. But you got to do one more thing. You got to bring the excitement, the energy, the sense of an incredibly diverse and cosmopolitan, creative, innovative 21st century. That's what we need in San Diego at this moment.
And we don't want to lose too much track of time, so we're going to interrupt here and give Tom Murphy, a former big city mayor himself, a chance to lead the discussion from our panelists.
Beyond the normal interaction with the universities, in the buzzwords of creative class and innovation, what specific actions do you see the city and the university doing to accelerate the commercialization of research? Your universities get almost $1 billion a year in research. Think of that, as we would say in Western Pennsylvania, as coal in the ground. It has no value in the ground. How do you build the infrastructure to accelerate that commercialization? And what role specifically does the city have working closely with the universities to build that? Carl?
Well, the major issue that we're facing in San Diego and in the state of California is the heavy burdens on moving an idea into manufacturing or into the market. And so it's cutting red tape. It's taking those ideas and creating the environment whereby people want to invest in production, in the actual deployment of the idea. We're seeing a lot of research and development done in San Diego. And it's one of the things I asked the biotech and life sciences community about. I said, look, I see a lot of research and development companies, but I don't see a lot of manufacturing. Why is that? And they said, well, it's very hard to set up a manufacturing facility in San Diego. The regulation, the access to energy and water that they need, the workforce issues. And so there's a couple things that we can do here. First is when it comes to moving an idea to market and being able to operationalize it, it's going to take a manufacturing capacity. Cutting red tape on our side of the border so that we have higher grade manufacturing, and then partnering in the binational economy, the Baja region, where I was last week talking about these sorts of partnerships. That's going to be key, creating the environment by which people can take great ideas, brilliant ideas, and bring them to market right here in San Diego, not in Texas, not in Arizona, but right here in San Diego.
Chance for a rebuttal?
Oh, I forgot, we have, I don't answer, I just said 30 seconds?
30 seconds.
Full disclosure, I was born in Pittsburgh, so he's going to favor me in this debate, right, Mayor? Look, you have to first understand the process here, somewhat like Dr. Jacobs did when he got here, and Connect does when they formed. That is, you institutionalize that connection, literally that connection between academic and research, and you form the institutions, and you've got to have the support. I mean, this is where a Filner administration would be different from anyone else running for office ever for mayor. To have an understanding of that academic life, that creative kind of potential, and the real world experience that would translate that into politics. And whether that's in traditional manufacturing, whether that's understanding the incubator process, whether that's going to innovative industries and saying to them, your first contract is the real problem you got. Why doesn't the city help you out? I just met a guy who invented new turf. I said, let's give him a 90-month contract to put turf on 3 playgrounds in San Diego. That, we could start. There's so many specific ways that a mayor can do this.
Appreciate that. Joyce, please.
Yes, I'll direct this question to Carl. You mentioned how important the arts were to innovation and creativity. What do you see the city's role in promoting and enhancing the arts? And more specifically, what would be your position on the Penny for the Arts initiative for the long-term sustainability of the arts and culture sector?
Well, I support the goal of moving us to the penny for the arts, but I also want to not just call it arts and culture. We need to broaden how we conceive of this program, arts, culture, and science, because I think those all go hand in hand in terms of the disciplines that we want to create and the environment we want to foster. But we have to deal with it in a responsible and balanced way, which is why we do have to engage in our fiscal reform agenda and finish that job. As I said in our prior debate here in the Balboa Park on arts and culture issues, over the next 8 years, I've committed to doubling our arts and culture funding. How? When our TOT revenues expand because of our investments in an expanded convention center, in our investments in the tourism management district. Those funds are now available for arts and culture programs, even under the existing percentage that we have. Not even the penny on the arts, but penny for the arts, but for the existing percentage. So I'm going to be taking a two-track approach, growing the pie, which brings in more money for arts, culture, and science programs, as well as moving us towards that penny for the arts. And I believe we can accomplish that. But it's going to require a balanced, sustainable approach, which is why you need a mayor who knows the financial reform agenda and has a proven track record of being able to free up money for important investments.
Chance for rebuttal.
You know, a city has to fix its potholes and fix its pension system. But a city to aspire to that is aspiration to mediocrity. You know, I know that the word for city is the base for the word civilization. And to have a city which is civilized means going beyond this. I was on the city council which established the Arts and Culture Commission. I was on a city council which voted in a public arts tax. You know, when you land at any airport in this country, you know right from the beginning, whether it's Minneapolis or San Francisco, you know whether they support our public arts. You land here, you don't have that. Not only do we have to appreciate it, we have to support it in a far better way. You know, when I was on the school board, by the way, I saved the music programs at that time in the schools, because we have to, it's the schools in addition to what we do as adults that gives that appreciation. So we got to do far more publicly, Joyce. Also disclosure, I was a colleague of Joyce's at San Diego State, so she favors me also in this.
And
so it's not just, it has to be a lifetime commitment, understanding what civilization and what a civilized city can do.
And we favor the clock as well. Thank you for that, gentlemen. Mark, a chance to ask a question.
Where to start. It's not often that we have an opportunity to speak to both of you about issues that are this important, and I guess I should direct it to Congressman Filner, since the last two have started with Councilman DeMaio. So in conversations with both of you, I've had an opportunity to talk a bit about what we've seen in other cities in the last decade or so to foster growth of the innovation economy in urban cores. And just curious what thoughts you have or specific strategies you have, either ones that are out there already that you would like to support or ideas on your own to really take the innovation economy that we're talking about in San Diego and bring it to the urban core of the city of San Diego, or if that is, in fact, a priority for you in your administration.
Thank you, Mark. It has to be a priority. And, you know, there's so many things going on around the country that we can steal from, and we should do that. As an academic, I have no problem with, plagiarism. I mean, no, I take that back. You know, we have to see things where they are. But let me just take one specific thing to show how we should be thinking, Mark. We have the Sister City program. It's a symbolic thing that, you know, we say we have sister cities. What if it was a true sister city, whether it was an African city or a South American city or an Asian city, and we truly use that as a seminar for our city, that the kids learn about that city in school or a group of schools, that the students actually live in that city for a few months and come back, and we exchange students, we exchange teachers, we exchange art, we exchange the artisan work that city has. We exchange, obviously, trade. Let us build on some of these institutions that are really not very creative or innovative right now. They're merely symbolic. And let us have a mayor who understands how to put substance behind that and say, let us create, let us innovate, let us explore other cultures, let us explore other regions, let us explore other cities, and have our school system do it, our business community do it, our arts community do it. It's all the tying in and the interdisciplinary nature of that work.
Chance for a rebuttal.
Sure. I want to go back to the issue of how we get things done. I mean, politicians come in and they talk about, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this. They don't have a detailed plan. They don't have experience in actually getting things done. That's why the fiscal reform agenda is so important. When I talk about getting that penny for the arts, it's so critically important that we actually do it, that we have a mayor who can go step by step and solve problems and bring people together to have a sustainable and balanced way to reinvest in our creative programs. Now, as it relates to your specific question, first and foremost, a very concrete idea we've got to move forward on, the Idea District that Jerry Navarra and a team of his collaborators have come up with, who, by the way, are supporting my candidacy for mayor, because they know that I'm the one who can work with them to get that Idea District done, and my commitment is firm. Also, our downtown charter school, which the city of San Diego is one of the very few cities in the country that will have its own charter school at the library. It will be an urban education, and I think the arts curriculum will be a core part of how we establish that charter school and the mayor's appointments to the board and our involvement in that school. And finally, in the urban core, arts and culture programs are so critical to the after-school programs that I want to restore, so that our kids are not exposed to these bad influences, that we have programs to keep them occupied and focus their energies from the hours of not only 3 to 6, but 3 to 9, because mom and dad may not get back until that late. And so the arts and culture programs will be a key element in providing our after-school programs, which have been decimated in recent years.
Okay, Tom Murphy, give you another chance.
And I'll do, since Carl's been asked twice, I'll go to Bob on this one. Bob, the 2011 Venture Capital Association report shows that almost 70% of the venture capital invested in the United States goes to 3 regions in the country. San Diego is not one of them. If you saw The Social Network, you know that Mark Zuckerberg moves from Boston, which is the second highest place of venture capital, to the Silicon Valley. And why is this important? It's important because bright young people go to universities here, do research, want to start and have an idea, want to start a company, and often move then to Silicon Valley or Boston to start the company because that's where the capital is. What tangibly does the city, in partnering with the university and other business leaders, do to make the availability of venture capital really much higher in the San Diego region so you don't lose the talent as you grow it here?
And we have a minute for that.
Actually, Pittsburgh has done a great job, so thank you for what you did there. But look, this is a comprehensive kind of approach that you have to take, and you need a mayor who has a comprehensive view of it. Yeah, Mr. Navarro supports Carl, as all developers do, but they're not interested in innovation idea. They're interested in public money going to their private interests. What you have to do here is make sure that all of the aspects that people come here to innovate and will invest here are looked at, whether that's the educational system, whether that's an urban metropolitan kind of context. I was the councilman for downtown San Diego, which I pushed through the gas lamp plant, and although it fell short in certain ways in certain cultural ways, it is the most it's the most energetic neighborhood in the city. And we need that kind of metropolitan kind of sense. You need housing that appeals to people. You need a mass transit system. You need to have the cultural support. You need to have a sense of a public art. And you got to have a mayor that personally welcomes the capital and shows that there are going to be all the things in place, whether it's permitting, whether it's streamlining of regulations, whether it's the zoning of land for manufacture. All that has to be in place. But the mayor can do best in that, Tom, because I'm not going to influence the banks and the venture capitalists directly in their investments. But to show that we are going to be a city which welcomes them, which provides a context for the people who work here, which provides an educational system of great excellence, which creates a artistic and cultural ambience that people will come and work for. It takes all of that in working in concert to do.
Tom, you've hit on a hugely important issue, and I think this is another key difference between the candidates. I'm a businessman. I've started and sold 2 successful companies. I understand business and what brings capital in. If you've spent your whole entire time in government, not ever creating private sector jobs, not ever attracting investment, you may not understand some of the major challenges that we have to overcome. Venture capital firms look for 2 things. Companies that are about to start, so they're looking for ideas, and an idea that's being taken to market, and we touched upon that as a previous question. But second, companies that are poised to invest and expand. That's what venture capitalists are looking for. Creation and expansion. So the real question is, why is it so difficult to create and expand jobs, to create and expand companies in San Diego? And it gets to the core that my Pathway to Prosperity plan deals with, which is changing our regulatory environment, changing the culture at City Hall, so that we can make San Diego that place where people want to invest, because we got not only great ideas and a creative class, but we have the support of our city government and an environment that invites investment and allows them to succeed in creating and expanding. That's the reputation I want for San Diego.
Thank you. Joyce?
I think that you would both agree that Balboa Park is one of our city's greatest treasures. And now with the Centennial Celebration 2015 fast approaching, and that the Balboa Park Conservancy was established to maintain and preserve the assets of the park for the future. What is going to be your role in supporting, of course, the Centennial Celebration and the Conservancy's role well beyond the Centennial?
Do you want to direct your question to a particular candidate, Joyce?
All right. Well, I'm meeting with the Centennial Task Force on a regular basis, and in my Pathway to Prosperity, I took the Centennial on as a core opportunity for us to reintroduce San Diego to the world stage like we did in 1915. And in that context, I called for holding 12 innovation summits, each looking at a different sector of our economy and the global trends in terms of innovation. And so we're now putting together those summits with our task force. And I said, look, I want you to be ready to present your plan this fall, and I want to be ready for an action plan in December when I take office. So I'm already engaged in that. We also need to make sure that Balboa Park gets a makeover and that we rejuvenate this park. And that's why I was strongly supported the Plaza de Panama investment, a public-private partnership. And that's, again, a test of leadership. A mayor who can be cool-headed and balanced and supportive and bring people together, rather than grandstanding and engaging in theatrics that are designed to divide and fan the flames of disagreement. I think that on both counts, I've shown that we've got a plan and the tone, the temperament, and the approach, the right approach, to make sure that we take advantage of this great opportunity in 2015.
And rebuttal?
Was there a veiled criticism either? Couldn't be. The 100th anniversary of the. I liked your summit idea so well. I think I'll appoint you as the head of the Conservancy.
Finally, in a year and a half of campaigning, I got a job.
You got a
from
job
Bob.
finally.
Great. Thank you,
lived
Bob.
off the government your whole life. You may as well just keep doing it. The 100th year anniversary gives us an opportunity to do great things. I mean, it focuses, it gives, it encourages a political will, it encourages the kind of creativity, innovation that this question session is all about. I would like to have some iconic stuff going on, but you know what's going to leave us a legacy is things that will improve the access to Balboa Park. We should be talking about downtown access. There's a plan that was presented to the former CCDC to make access into Balboa Park, and we should start working on it. They're little things. The Elm Street and 6th Avenue, for example, entrance to Balboa Park is one of the most silly kinds of unfriendly pedestrian accesses you can ever imagine. Let's deal with that. And let's look at the maintenance of the park and the improvement of some of those buildings. Those are, relatively small steps, relatively small expenditures that will enhance the park for the next 100 years, and I think that's where we ought to be looking.
Mark?
So sticking with Balboa Park for a moment, I had a completely different question, but now I think I'll ask this one. So I think we can all agree it's absolutely one of the jewels of San Diego, but I think we could probably agree that there's young people in neighborhoods around the city of San Diego who've probably never been to Balboa Park and who don't feel connected to it. So taking the theme of an innovation economy, in regions around the country and around the world, oftentimes an innovation economy can be built by bringing in the best and brightest from outside of a region, but never actually getting the young people who are growing up in that region connected to it. As a mayor, what plans would you have on connecting young people to the innovation economy that we spend so much time promoting and thinking about here in San Diego? And specifically, are there particular programs that you would think of launching or supporting in the community?
Thank you, Mark. By the way, when I was on the school board, we had a 4th, 5th, 6th grade program which brought young people into the park, and people wanted to cut it. It was superfluous, by the way. And when I was on the board, we saved it at that time. And I saw what Balboa Park and the kind of institutions you are talking about can do for our children. I have an education plan built around the concept that a city must take care of its children from, I'll say, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We give it to the school system from 9 to 3 roughly. What happens before and after school? And this is where, Mark, the answer to your question allows us to also work with the school system to deal with the kids when they're at the time they get mostly in trouble. Take Balboa Park. We have world-class institutions. Why aren't, 1,000 kids in there, supervised, of course, from 3 to 6? Not only do they get the education of those world-class exhibits, but they get to see how the real world works. They get to see how exhibits are set up. There's mentors, there's teachers, there's perhaps tutors right there. They see the relationship of the real world to their learning in school. So, and I think we should expand that not just from Balboa Park, but to our sports teams, to our Navy, to our churches, to our senior centers. A city can take care of its children. And what if we all had a sense of responsibility here? What if we all had a sense of responsibility that it's our job as a city to take care of its children and to create the kind of connections and interdisciplinary senses and movement out of neighborhoods where they may not have been, that creates the innovation and leads to the creativity that, again, we're talking about today.
Rebuttal?
I think it goes all the way to Joyce's important question is if we can restore our after-school programs and get partnerships with nonprofits, with our museums, with our arts organizations, if we can get to that penny on the dollar through a balanced and sustainable and thoughtful approach where the mayor actually figures out how are we going to carry out this great idea rather than just rhetorically talk about it at forums year after year but never get it done. That's when you're going to see thousands of kids coming to Balboa Park because most of those organizations have a tie or are located here in Balboa Park, and this is the great learning lab for them in the area of creativity. But you did mention something that I want to take issue with. Balboa Park, you said, is one of our most treasured jewels. You know what? We haven't shown that. $200 million in deferred maintenance. Mission Bay, another jewel. Untold amounts of deferred maintenance. Because, again, it gets back to the issue. When you have a mayor and a series of decisions where you're not managing the finances appropriately, where you're giving away pension deals that are not sustainable, where you're not filling the potholes, where you're not maintaining the infrastructure, then even these wonderful institutions that we all cherish are diminished. And that's the situation that we face in Balboa Park. Thank goodness we were able, with Irwin Jacobs, to move forward on a public-private partnership to start turning that around. And that took leadership and all sides coming together. It took the maturity of doing the right thing. And as mayor, I will continue to make those investments in Balboa Park and in our programs.
Tom Murphy.
The urban in-migration across the country, is well documented. San Diego is a great example. You have 30,000 people now living in downtown San Diego. With the demise of the redevelopment authorities and that responsibility as we know it in California, what tangible ways does the city support developers or artists who want to build vibrant, exciting new neighborhoods in places where that might not exist? Is there a new role for the city in that partnership between people that want to make the kind of cutting-edge investments that create those places? Carl, I'm sorry. Why don't you start?
I'll start. I think it starts with the importance of the community plan updates. One of the reasons why downtown was successful is that we had a programmatic EIR. We master planned the community, and it was a very stable environment by which investors could come in and build those sorts of projects. In our community plan updates, we need to include what sort of vision we have for arts and culture and the creativity of the community. That's why the idea district is so important. Being able to get those ideas together, get the financial flows down in that neighborhood, and then see the synergy that starts to occur. Again, it takes someone who I think brings a business approach to it to make sure that we're making investments that are sustainable. So community plan updates, culture, bringing people together around projects that are really marquee projects, that are demonstration projects like the Idea District. I'm still very bullish on our ability to reinvest in our neighborhoods, even without redevelopment, because we have an opportunity to reform city finances and move the money back to neighborhood infrastructure. I've laid out a plan, $497 million over from the next 5 years, all going into infrastructure, to catch us up on all that deferred maintenance in our neighborhoods. And so as we are rebuilding our neighborhoods, then we have the arts and culture element that we are constantly incorporating. We're constantly incorporating that into our approvals of development projects.
Rebuttal,
And
please.
the urban core obviously is the place we'd want to see that happen the most.
Well, clearly the mayor has a role in doing that. Clearly. By the way, when I was in the council, I pushed through the gas lamp plan, and we also did Hillcrest Uptown plan, which created that kind of vibrancy that we want. So, I mean, that's the kind of, I think, experience you want for a mayor. But let's talk about this so-called idea, innovative district in each village. That's a good idea. By the way, the guy who talked most eloquently about it in the primary campaign was Assemblyman Fletcher. And he and I have talked about him leading the effort, in fact, to do that and other economic development projects in a Filner administration. So, but the kind of creativity, innovation that comes from that, Tom, if you had to have the private sector investing, say in a stadium, which can operate also as a, say, sports arena, we free up incredible land in Mission Valley, in Point Loma area, where the sports arena is, that can in fact become the economic drivers and the economic engine for the kind of development you also want in an idea innovation district downtown. So again, it's a comprehensive kind of thing, and you can't ignore, as you know when you were mayor, you can't ignore the relationship between public transportation and all that, and yet this city has ignored it. You got to tie public transportation and housing opportunities and transit-oriented development. Otherwise, the density that is needed for this and the transportation that people demand in this metro kind of concept will not be done. And you have to take a completely comprehensive view of it.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left in the hour, so we're starting to wind down a little bit. Joyce, though, you have the next question.
You heard Paige announce the innovation incubator and the notion of STEM to STEAM. What does this really mean to you when we talk about STEM to STEAM? And what does this have to say about integrating arts into the curriculum? And I'll address that to you, Congressman Fielder.
Well, this is exactly what might happen to me. My academic life is all about. I mean, when you're adding to the left brain activities, the artistic part of, you go from science, technology, engineering, to adding the art and design a part of STEAM. It gives us STEAM to energizing the left and right brains, which I think we have to do. And that starts from, elementary school or preschool and on up. I mean, the city ought to be encouraging our kids. You know what got me into music? I grew up in New York City. So I was born in Pittsburgh. But my mother made me go to young people's concerts that were led by Leonard Bernstein. Why don't we have a man of that caliber here for our young people? We can do that as a city. We're the 8th biggest city in the nation. We aspire to be the 21st century. Let's get somebody who can get the kids excited about music and art and culture. We have lots of groups that are doing it. I want to do it in a way that dramatically changes to things together. So yes, let's get some steam, but we got to encourage our educational system. There has to be public art. There has to be more support for the Arts and Culture Commission. There has to be public art that is encouraged by the not only the city but the county and the Port District and everybody else. When I land at Lindbergh Field, I would like to see a sense that this city supports public art.
And a chance
You
for
don't have that
rebuttal.
sense now.
Well, again, the STEAM concept is something that I've incorporated, and that's why I feel so strongly about recasting our arts and culture program to include arts, culture, and science, so that we can tie these issues together. And I'm just so thrilled, absolutely thrilled that we were awarded this innovation grant, and that San Diego is going to be one of the key cities to be home to this concept, to pilot this concept. We know it's going to work, and we know that San Diego probably has the perfect climate for us to achieve a demonstrable impact through this innovation program. It would be great to have it in Balboa Park. It might also be something that we could include as part of the innovation district, the idea district downtown. But it's absolutely critical that we show a bang for the buck, a return on the investment from this pilot, because then that will generate additional public and private investment in this incubator. We shouldn't see this just as an investment from the federal government through Nist. We should see it as an opportunity to create something that will be sustainable, that we can show the market is a good investment. And that's what I'd like to do with this great opportunity as mayor.
And the last question to Mark Cafferty.
So we could argue that the two greatest economic development assets we have in San Diego are the place and the people, not necessarily in that order. Again, going back to the young people growing up in San Diego right now, in other places around the country, large summer youth employment programs, large after-school youth employment programs have become something that urban mayors have championed in certain places. In San Diego, this has not happened. We've had various times where we've put young people to work when there's been federal money available, and then we've had other times when the federal money is not there and we can't do it. As a mayor, what would you do to spearhead an effort to get more young people connected to the economy by actually connecting them to the jobs?
Well, Mark, I listened to you, and I watched what you did in Boston. San Diego is very fortunate to have Mark at the EDC, because in Boston, he was the head of an important program that did just this, the Hire a Youth program. And we have a very small version of that program here in San Diego. But as part of my Pathway to Prosperity jobs plan, I've made a commitment to expanding that program to be serving 5,000 youth. And it kind of comes from my own personal experience. When I was orphaned and the Jesuits took me in at age 13, they gave me a great education. You can't compete with the education the Jesuits give. But more importantly, I had no money, no spending money. And so I had to get a job. And what I learned on the job was equally important to what I learned in the classroom. The same is true of these Hire a Youth programs, particularly for at-risk kids, inner-city kids, where we can get them that first job, and they perhaps will be able to acquire skills and a drive and a purpose in their life that the classroom perhaps has not been able to achieve. It's so critical. If we do this even for one child, the return on investment is 100-fold in some of these neighborhoods. You cannot calculate it, because we don't know where that child would have been had we not given them this opportunity. So I actually think not only is it good for our kids, it's a great program from that standpoint. I'm looking forward to using the Hire a Youth program to achieve efficiencies in the city government, because we can do some of the work through seasonal employment using the Hire a Youth program.
DeMaio comes out for child labor. Let me just to say that you said, what would you do to spearhead it? I would spearhead it. That is not only work with the private sector to make sure they felt this was part of their responsibility. By the way, I would do the same thing, and I'm going to establish a veterans employment office in the mayor's office, because veterans are not being hired either, and although they're some of the young people a little bit also. I was just at the graduation of the Job Corps in San Diego. And I offered to the students there, many of them got quite excited about being part of an advisory committee where their kind of experience in getting a job after they graduate from Job Corps can be incorporated into the city policies. And I already talked to a lot of them, and we can enhance internships, for example, of city and other governments around to get them that kind of experience in an office and in an activity. We could incorporate some of the economic development activities we have. For example, I said that all public buildings should be solar powered within 5 years. That's going to expand small business. But what if we have a requirement that our city youth have to be involved in those installation of those solar panels or photovoltaic cells or the energy audits?
Child electrocution.
You have to... you're learning to give me a rebuttal. I love that.
And we don't want to
So someday you might learn as much as I do. That we actually incorporate these concepts, Mark, that you have worked on in the past and are working on now, into other kinds of things that we are doing also in terms of expanding Balboa Park, expanding small business, expanding education. All of this has to do also, as I said 5 times before, it's a comprehensive look at all the policies that a city has to do.
And we're almost at the end of the hour, but we do want to give you each a minute to make your case, why you think innovation is key for the next mayor of San Diego, and why you're going to be that person. I would just ask you, please, to keep it brief, because we are running short on time. And we'll start with you, Bob.
Let me first say thank you for inspiring innovation and creativity by having this forum. We have attended a couple things around similar topics, and frankly, a mayor has to be fiscally sound and, making sure we do the right things in potholes. But I'm sick of hearing, frankly, about this bang for the buck and this fiscal thing when we talk about arts, culture, innovation. I mean, these things are good for them. They're for themselves. And we ought to have a mayor who understands that and can glorify it and can defend it. That is, kids need to be educated in the arts and culture and not just in mathematics, art, and engineering and science. It's part of who we are as a people. It's part of who we are as human beings. We become better human beings in a city. We become better human beings when we talk about these issues a little bit sometimes removed from the bang for the buck. I will tell you that any kid who learns music, an appreciation of music, any kid who sees a play and is moved by a drama, any child who dances, is immeasurably made better as a human being. And a city ought to be saying that to every child and every adult in our city. So yes, we know culture and arts helps the tourism of the city, and we can expand that greatly. But to inspire innovation, to inspire creativity, we have to inspire the kids to learn this for its own sake, because it enlarges us as human beings.
Thank you.
I want to thank all the organizations involved with organizing the forum today. It's such an important issue. That's why it's central to my Pathway to Prosperity jobs plan. It's central to our whole roadmap to recovery plan of restoring community services, after-school programs, the things that we've lost over the past decade as we've been engulfed in a financial crisis. And Bob has said, don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the sustainability. Just run out there and talk about why you love the idea. We all love the idea. It's what unites us. But what San Diegans want is a mayor who can get us there, achieve the vision, get things done, and not repeat the mistakes of the past of politicians promising, over-promising, and then borrowing, going into debt, and not being able to sustain, and then causing a bigger crisis where things are then cut even deeper because we hit the brick wall going 90 miles an hour. Congressman, in Washington, they get to borrow money. And you've done that for 20 years. A 394% increase in the federal debt. Trillions of dollars. In San Diego, we don't have that luxury. We need a mayor who can make it happen because we've looked at the numbers and we have a balanced and sustainable investment that we can put in. As mayor, we've laid out, as a candidate, but as mayor I will continue, the well-thought-out plan that came not from me, but came from you, listening to Mark Cafferty on the Hire a Youth program, listening to Joyce Gaddis on the STEAM and the role of science in arts and culture, depending on the arts, listening to Erwin Jacobs and Ira Strauss and Colette Royston, all of these folks that have great ideas but need a mayor who will listen and find how to bring people together to convert ideas into action. That, I think, is the fundamental difference in this campaign. And I hope to have your support in this election and your involvement as we achieve the implementation of the ideas we talked about today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much to all of our guests today, Carl DeMaio, Bob Filner, and our panelists, Joyce Gaddis, Mark Cafferty, and Tom Murphy. Thanks very much.